The second I stepped into my parents' backyard, I knew I'd made a mistake. Not because of the folding chairs or the cheap speaker blasting a summer hits playlist like it was legally required. Not because my aunt was already yelling, "Kira, you're so skinny," like I'd been hiding food from the government. It was the way my sister Tessa looked up from her drink and smiled like she'd just found the weak spot in a dented car door. My mom had planned the whole thing like it was a campaign event. Burgers on the grill, potato salad, sweating in the sun, cousins I hadn't seen in years, and my dad posted up by the cooler, acting like staying near ice was a personality. "Everybody's here," Mom said the moment she saw me. She hugged me fast like a quick photo op, then stepped back to inspect me. "You look tired." "I'm fine," I said, because that's what you say when you're Navy, and you're not interested in starting a therapy session next to a tray of deviled eggs. Tessa drifted closer, heels sinking into the grass like she was walking on people's opinions. She looked me up and down, paused at my left hand, and her eyebrows lifted. "Oh," she said loud enough for 3 tables to hear. "What's that?" I didn't want to make it a thing. I wasn't here to announce anything. I didn't come with a ring light and a speech. I just had a ring, on my hand, like a regular person. "It's a ring," I said. Tessa laughed like I'd told a joke. "No, I mean, where'd you get it? The vending machine outside the grocery store?" A few people chuckled the way people do when they don't know if they're allowed to laugh, but they're relieved someone else started. My cousin Janelle shot me a look from across the yard. The look said, "Don't take the bait." She knew the script. We all did. Tessa leaned in closer, still smiling, still performing. "Let me see." I should have kept my hand down. I should have walked away and asked my dad about the grill, like I cared about seasoning. But it was 90 degrees. I'd been up since 4. And I was tired of acting like my own engagement was something I needed to hide in my pocket. So I held my hand out just long enough for her to look. The ring wasn't huge. It wasn't one of those ridiculous rocks that makes your knuckle look like it's wearing a chandelier. It was simple, clean, real. The kind of ring that says someone actually knows you. Tessa's smile tightened. She didn't like that. She straightened up and turned slightly so more people could see her face. Tessa never wastes a moment. If she's going to stab you, she wants an audience and good lighting. "Well," she said, "that's cute." Mom perked up like a dog hearing the treat bag. "Kira, honey, what is this? Are you?" I kept my voice steady. "Yeah, I'm engaged." There it was. The line I'd been avoiding. The thing I'd wanted to share in a normal way, not in the middle of my mom's backyard, like I was unveiling a new product. A couple of relatives clapped. Someone squealed. My aunt started crying for reasons that had nothing to do with me. And Tessa smiled bigger. "Oh my God," she said, putting a hand on her chest like she was shocked. "Engaged." She dragged the word out the way you drag out a warning. "To who?" Mom asked, already scanning the driveway, like my fiancé was going to rappel in from a helicopter. "He's on his way," I said. He got held up. Tessa tilted her head. Held up doing what? Shopping for a receipt. I felt my face get hot. Not because she'd gotten to me, because she was doing this in front of everyone, and everyone was letting it happen like it was normal. My dad made a small cough noise and stared hard at the cooler. Mom did that thing she always did, where she pretended she didn't hear the part that mattered. Tessa stepped closer again, her voice rising just enough to hook the whole yard. "So let me get this straight," she said. "You're saying some man proposed to you." "You." I didn't answer. I didn't owe her a reaction. She nodded like that was confirmation. Then she looked around at the group, my aunts, my uncles, my mom's church friend, who didn't even know my middle name. And she said it, right out in the open. "Stop acting," Tessa said, laughing. "That ring is fake. No one would marry you." The words hit like cold water. Somebody gasped. Somebody laughed and immediately regretted it. A couple people stared at their plates like potato salad was suddenly fascinating. Mom finally spoke, but not to Tessa. "Kira," she said sharply, like I was the one who'd made things awkward. "Don't start." I didn't even know what she meant. Don't start what? Existing, breathing, wearing jewelry in public. Tessa's eyes stayed on me, daring me to cry, daring me to yell, daring me to finally become the dramatic one, so she could point and say, "See, this is what I deal with." I swallowed hard and kept my voice low. "You done?" She shrugged. "I'm just being honest. I don't want you embarrassing yourself. My cousin Janelle stood up halfway, like she was about to intervene, then froze when Mom shot her a look that said, "Stay out of it." That's when I heard a car door close in the driveway. Not a big entrance. Not dramatic. Just the sound of someone arriving like they had every right to be there. I turned before my brain even caught up. Ethan walked through the side gate, one hand holding a small bakery box, the other lifting in a quick wave. He was in a button-down with the sleeves rolled up, like he'd come straight from a meeting. He looked calm, which made me want to cry because I was holding myself together with dental floss. "Sorry," he said, and his voice was warm and normal. "Traffic was a mess. I brought those lemon bars you like." He came to me first. Not to my mom, not to the loudest person. To me. He leaned in, kissed my cheek, then looked around with that polite, steady expression he used when someone was about to try him and he was already tired. "I'm Ethan," he said, "Kira's fiancé." Tessa's face changed so fast it was almost funny. Her smile dropped. Her eyes widened just a little. Her hand tightened on her cup. Because she knew him, not from a vague, seen him somewhere kind of way. Not from social media. From work. I watched it click behind her eyes, piece by piece, like a slow-loading web page. She'd mentioned a new senior leader at her company for months. How he was so professional. How he didn't play favorites. How he actually listened. How he was different from the other guys. She'd said all that while throwing little comments at me about my Navy attitude and how I'd end up alone because I was too intense. And now he was standing in my parents' backyard, holding a bakery box, saying my name like it meant something. Ethan looked at Tessa briefly, just long enough to be polite. "Hi," he said. Tessa's mouth opened, then closed. "Hi," she managed. Mom blinked at Ethan, then at me, then back at Ethan like her brain was trying to buffer. My dad finally looked up from the cooler. His eyes narrowed slightly, like he was trying to place Ethan's face in a mental file cabinet. And Tessa took a tiny step back the way someone does when they realize they've been talking trash in a room with a security camera. Ethan didn't announce anything about her job. He didn't embarrass her. He didn't even smirk. He just stood next to me steady and calm like he belonged there, which somehow made Tessa look even worse, because she was the only one in the yard who seemed like she didn't know how to act like a normal adult. She cleared her throat, forcing a laugh that sounded like it hurt. "Wow," she said. "Small world." Ethan nodded once. "Yeah," he said, still calm. "It is." And right then, right when Tessa's eyes flicked back to my ring with that tight, jealous look, I knew she wasn't going to let this go. If you're enjoying this kind of family drama and revenge story, drop a quick comment with what you would have said in my place and hit subscribe so you don't miss the next one. Mom stepped forward suddenly, sugary. "Ethan, you should come say hello to everyone. We're just celebrating." Tessa's fingers tapped her cup like she was counting down to something. Ethan shifted slightly closer to me and said softly, "You okay?" I looked at him and gave the smallest nod I could manage. Because in my family, nothing stays simple for long. And Tessa had just realized she'd been insulting me in front of the one person at her job she couldn't charm, intimidate, or spin. I tightened my grip on Ethan's hand until my fingers started to ache. Because if I let go, I might have done something unprofessional, like flip a picnic table. Tessa was still standing there, with that frozen smile eyes darting between Ethan and my ring, like she was trying to figure out which one she hated more. My mom recovered first, because my mom always recovers first. She's trained. Years of pretending everything is fine should qualify her for a medal. Ethan, Mom said, stepping in front of me, like she was hosting a talk show. "Welcome. We're so happy to finally meet you." Finally meet you, like she hadn't spent the last 5 minutes letting my sister call me unlovable in front of half the county. Ethan did the polite thing. He shook her hand. He smiled. He said, "Thank you for having me." The man could have taught a master class on staying calm in hostile environments, which frankly I found attractive. Tessa's eyes narrowed just a bit. She didn't like that Ethan wasn't reacting. She needed him to be flustered. She needed him to be confused. She needed him to doubt me. Instead, he stood there like he had a spine. My dad finally wandered over, wiping his hands on a paper towel, like he'd been busy doing something other than avoiding his family. "Ethan," Dad said, sizing him up. "Good to meet you." Ethan offered his hand. "Sir." Dad nodded once like that was enough emotion for the month. Tessa tried again, because of course she did. So she said, leaning on the word like it was a weapon you two met, where Ethan answered smoothly, "At a community fundraiser, we started talking, and it went from there." That was true. It was also the most boring version of true, which I appreciated. Nothing dramatic, nothing she could twist. Tessa's laugh came out wrong. A fundraiser, she repeated, like fundraisers were where desperate people went to pretend they mattered. Mom cut in fast. "Well, isn't that wonderful? Kira, why didn't you tell us?" I stared at her. "Because you didn't ask." Her mouth opened, then shut. She blinked at me like I'd spoken a foreign language. "In my family, you can't say things like that. You have to hint. You have to soften. You have to make sure nobody feels uncomfortable except me." I was the designated discomfort sponge. Janelle Mejiat wandered closer, saving me without making a scene. She smiled at Ethan. "Hi. I'm Janelle. I've heard about you." Ethan nodded. "Nice to meet you." Tessa's eyes snapped to Janelle with pure warning. Janelle ignored it like a professional. Mom clapped her hands once. Okay, everybody, let's eat. Food's getting cold." Food wasn't cold. My mom just needed something she could control. We moved toward the tables. Ethan stayed close to me, not possessive, just steady. Tessa floated to the other side of the group, but I could still feel her watching like a mosquito that had learned my schedule. Mom pulled me aside near the back door. Her smile stayed on, but her voice dropped into that sharp, private tone. "Kira," she said, "what is happening?" "What do you mean?" "You're engaged," she hissed like I'd joined a cult. "Yes. And you didn't tell us." "I didn't want it to turn into this." Mom's eyes flicked toward Tessa, who was loudly telling my aunt about some work thing, tossing her hair like she was auditioning for a shampoo commercial. "This wouldn't be happening if you didn't push her," Mom said. I actually laughed. I couldn't help it. It came out short and ugly. "I pushed her," I repeated. "By standing here." Mom's face tightened. "Don't start?" There it was again. "Don't start. Don't make it worse. Don't embarrass us." Tessa could say whatever she wanted, but I couldn't breathe too loud. Mom leaned closer. "You know how she is." I stared at her. "Yeah, I do." "She was joking," Mom said, and she didn't even sound like she believed it. "She said no one would marry me." "Kira, no, Mom." My voice stayed quiet, but it was firm. She didn't slip. She meant it. Mom exhaled hard through her nose. "You're being sensitive." And that's when I felt something in me go still. Not angry, not hurt, just done. My mind flashed fast and sharp through a few memories I usually kept buried because they were embarrassing in a way only family can make you feel. I was 8 holding a broken snow globe. Tessa had dropped it. I hadn't even been in the room. Mom walked in, saw the mess, and asked Tessa what happened. Tessa pointed at me. "Kira did it." I said no, I didn't. Mom didn't ask questions. She didn't look for the truth. She just sighed like I was a burden and said, "Why would you do that?" I remember standing there, tiny and confused, staring at my mom's face, waiting for it to change, waiting for her to realize, waiting for her to say, "Oh, I'm sorry, I made a mistake." It never happened. Another memory: middle school. I got picked for an academic program, the kind that came with a certificate and a little award ceremony in the cafeteria. I came home excited. Mom was washing dishes. I told her. She smiled quick, then said, "That's nice. Don't rub it in your sister's face." I hadn't even mentioned Tessa. And then high school. Tessa borrowed my money from my backpack money I'd earned cleaning a neighbor's garage, then spent it at the mall. When I found out and asked for it back, she cried like I'd attacked her. Mom told me, "You're always so selfish." She needed it. Needed it for a new top. My dad stood behind Mom that day, arms crossed, staring at the floor like the truth was under it. The pattern was so consistent, it could have been a family tradition. I'd grown up learning that fairness wasn't a real thing. It was something people on TV talked about. So when Mom stood in front of me now and told me Tessa was joking, I understood exactly what she was really saying. Let her hurt you. It's easier for all of us. I looked past Mom back toward the yard. Tessa had drifted closer again, drawn by the fact that Mom and I were talking privately. She didn't like not knowing what was being said. She needed access. She needed control. Ethan was near the table putting the lemon bars down, smiling politely, as my aunt interrogated him about his job. He handled it like he'd been born for it. Tessa's eyes flicked to Ethan, then back to me. She took a step closer like she couldn't help herself. "What are you two whispering about?" she asked. "Sweet as poison." Mom's smile snapped back on. "Nothing, honey." Tessa's gaze locked on me. "Are you crying? Because I didn't mean it like that?" I didn't answer. She shrugged, turning it into a performance for whoever was listening. "I just don't want her getting her hopes up, you know. She gets these ideas." My face stayed still, but my stomach dropped, because that line was familiar too. She gets these ideas. Like I was a little kid who thought she could fly off the roof. Ethan looked over just for a second. His eyes met mine. The question was there, do you want me to step in? I gave the tiniest shake of my head. Not because I didn't want him to defend me, because if Ethan defended me, my family would turn it into proof that I was dramatic, needy, weak. And I wasn't giving them that. I wasn't going to do the work for their story. I walked past Mom and right up to Tessa, close enough that she had to stop smiling. My voice was low, calm, and plain. "Don't talk about me like I'm not standing here," I said. Tessa blinked like she hadn't expected me to speak in complete sentences. "Oh my God," she laughed a little too loud. "Relax." I didn't move. "You embarrassed me on purpose." Tessa's eyes hardened. "You embarrassed yourself by showing up with a fake ring and a fantasy fiancé." I felt the heat rise again, but I kept my tone flat. "He's right there." Tessa's mouth tightened. She glanced toward Ethan, then back at me, and for a split second, I saw it real fear. Not fear of me, fear of consequences, workplace consequences. So she did what she always did. She turned to Mom. "See," Tessa said, voice suddenly shaky. "She's attacking me, I was just kidding." Mom immediately stepped in front of her like a shield. "Kira, stop. You're ruining this." I stared at my mother. My own mother. Standing between me and the person who'd just humiliated me. I wasn't surprised, but I was done pretending I was. Ethan's voice came from behind me, quiet but steady. "Kira." I exhaled once, sharp and controlled, like I was releasing pressure from a valve. Then I made a choice I'd never made before in that backyard. I stepped away from both of them and walked back toward Ethan, because I wasn't spending another minute begging for basic respect in the place I grew up learning I'd never get it. I slid into the passenger seat of Ethan's car and shut the door like I was sealing off a fire. The backyard noise got muffled instantly. Music, laughter, somebody yelling about burgers, and for the first time all day, my shoulders dropped half an inch. Ethan didn't start the engine right away. He just looked at me, hands on the wheel, calm in a way that made me feel both safer and more irritated. Because why was he the only adult back there? "You want to go?" he asked. I stared straight ahead. "Yeah." "Okay." No lecture, no but family, no speech about taking the high road, just okay. We pulled away from my parents' house, the sun flashing through trees, and my phone started vibrating in my lap before we even hit the main road. "Mom." Decline. "Tessa." Decline. A group text popped up, my aunt, my mom, my cousin's wife, like the family had formed a rapid response unit. "Aunt Linda." "Why did you storm off, Mom?" "Kira, call me now." "Tessa." "Wow, dramatic much." I didn't answer. I stared at the screen long enough to feel the old pressure start to build in my chest. Then I hit mute on the whole thread. Ethan glanced at me. "Good." I let out a breath that sounded more like a laugh. "You saw that." "I've met your sister for 5 minutes," he said. "I'm not confused." That got a real laugh out of me. Short, bitter, but real. "Welcome to the show." We drove in silence for a couple minutes. The kind that isn't awkward, just loaded. Then Ethan said, "Do you want me to say something to her at work?" My stomach tightened. "No." "You sure?" "I'm sure," I said. "Not because she doesn't deserve it. Because she wants it. She wants a scene she can twist into a story." Ethan nodded like that made perfect sense, which again made me want to kiss him and scream at the same time. "What I need," I added, "is for this to not touch my job." Ethan's tone stayed steady. "It won't. But if she does anything through work channels, it's not you making it a problem. It's her." I stared out the window. "Yeah, try explaining that to my mom." We ended up at my place, small apartment, clean, nothing fancy. The kind of place you live when you're saving money, and you're barely home anyway. Ethan carried the lemon bars inside, like they weren't a weird symbol of how my day went off the rails. I kicked off my shoes and stood in the kitchen for a second, feeling that post-adrenaline crash. Ethan set the box down. I can stay or I can go, whatever you want. I appreciated that he didn't assume, didn't crowd me, didn't treat me like a fragile thing. Stay, I said. Then because I couldn't help myself, unless you have a sudden urge to attend more family events. He snorted. I'm all set. I finally looked at him fully. I'm sorry. He raised an eyebrow. For what? For that. Ethan shook his head once. Don't apologize for someone else's bad behavior. I nodded, but my mind was already moving, flipping through the day like a debrief. In the Navy, you learn pretty fast that feelings don't fix problems. They're real sure, but they're not a plan. And I needed a plan, because Tessa didn't just insult me. She did it on purpose in public, in front of people who would repeat it for entertainment. That wasn't sibling banter, that was a move. I checked my phone again. Missed calls stacked up, a new message from Janelle. Janelle, you okay? I'm sorry. I tried. Me, I'm good. Thanks for being there. Janelle. She's already talking. Of course she was. 30 minutes later, the first concerned message came in from an unknown number. Unknown. Hey, it's Marcy, Linda's friend. Just checking on you. Are you sure that ring is legit? I stared at it disbelief, turning into a slow, hot anger. Ethan watched my face. What? I showed him. He read it, then looked up. That's fast. That's Tessa, I said. She doesn't waste time. I didn't respond to Marcy. I took a screenshot and added it to a new folder on my phone called Family. Real creative, I know. Ethan didn't comment. He just sat back watching me like he was learning the terrain. I said if I answer one, it becomes a group project. Ethan nodded. Smart. That night, I didn't sleep much. Not because I was heartbroken. Not because I was spiraling. I'd done that years ago. It was because my brain was doing what it always did when someone tried to mess with my life. It went into operational mode. The next morning, I was in uniform before sunrise coffee. In hand-hair tight face neutral. The base parking lot was full of people walking like they had somewhere to be, and because they did. Nobody cared about my sister. Nobody cared about my ring. It was beautiful. I walked into the building and the smell hit me. Cleaning solution. Old coffee printer toner. Familiar. Controlled. Chief Mercer spotted me almost immediately. Chief Nadia Mercer had that sixth sense. Chiefs have like they can smell drama through walls. She looked me over. You good, Lawson? Yes, Chief. She narrowed her eyes. That's not an answer. I exhaled through my nose. Family stuff. Chief Mercer gave a small grunt like she'd predicted this. Handle it off duty. Yes, Chief. She leaned closer, voice low. And don't let it crawl into your workspace. People love feeding on distraction. I won't, I said, and I meant it. The day moved. Maintenance checks, emails, meetings. The normal rhythm that makes you forget the world outside the gate exists. Then right after lunch, my phone buzzed again. A group text from my mom had somehow started a new thread because muting one wasn't enough for her. Mom, we need to talk tonight. Dad, call your mother. Tessa, tell her congrats from me, since she loves attention so much. I didn't respond. I didn't even feel like responding. It was just noise. And then another message came in, this time from Janelle. Again, Janelle, she told everyone you trapped him, like he doesn't know what he's doing. That one got under my skin, not because it was clever, but because it was the exact kind of lie that spreads fast. It paints you as desperate, manipulative, the sad little sister who couldn't win fairly. I stared at the screen, thumb hovering. Ethan had texted me earlier. How's your day? I typed back. Fine. Busy. Then I deleted it and wrote, my sister's already running her mouth. Don't engage if you hear anything. He replied, I won't. You okay? I wrote, I'm irritated, but I'm good. That was true. Irritated was different than broken. Irritated had energy. After work, I sat in my car for a minute before driving home. The sky was that washed-out late afternoon blue, the kind that makes everything feel flat. I pulled up my notes app and started a simple list. What Tessa said. Who heard it? Who texted me after? What was repeated? Not for revenge. Not for a dramatic mic drop. For clarity, because with people like Tessa, the story changes every hour. And if you don't anchor reality somewhere, you start questioning your own memory. By the time I got home, I had 5 screenshots, 2 call logs, and a knot in my jaw that wouldn't go away. Ethan came over later with takeout and 0 questions until I was ready. We ate on my couch, the TV on low, neither of us actually watching. Finally, I said, "She's going to try to make you doubt me." Ethan didn't even look up. She already tried. I blinked. "What do you mean?" He set his fork down. "She came at me sideways at the party." "Fake ring. Fantasy fiancé. That's not about jewelry, that's about control." I nodded slowly. "She's good at it." Ethan leaned back. "Not that good." I almost smiled, but my phone buzzed again. A new message, this time from my aunt, Aunt Linda. "Be honest. Did he propose because you pressured him?" I stared at the words until they blurred. Ethan watched my face. Another one. I nodded. He exhaled, controlled. "Okay. So she's working the family angle." "Yeah," I said, voice flat, "and she's not done." I opened my laptop, signed into my credit monitoring app, something I'd kept mostly for VA loan planning down the line, and checked my alerts. Nothing new, but the fact that I checked told me something I didn't want to admit when Tessa escalates. She doesn't just talk. She reaches. I closed the laptop, jaw tight, and made a decision that felt cold and clean. I was done treating my family like a harmless annoyance. I was going to treat them like a problem that could actually impact my life, because they could. I walked into my apartment and tossed my keys into the bowl by the door so hard they bounced back out. That's how I knew I was actually mad, not just annoyed. Annoyed Kira makes lists. Mad Kira starts throwing metal objects at ceramic dishes like a toddler. Ethan was already there, sitting at my tiny kitchen table with his laptop open. He looked up, read my face, and didn't say, "What's wrong?" like a rookie. He said she emailed HR. I stopped mid-step. "She what?" Ethan turned the screen toward me. "It got forwarded to me because it involves me. HR didn't give me her name, but I can tell from the writing." I stared at the email on his screen. It was the corporate version of a sneak attack. Polite, vague, carefully worded like she'd Googled how to sound concerned without sounding insane. Subject line: concern regarding potential conflict of interest. Of course! The body was a masterpiece of fake innocence. She was reaching out to protect the integrity of the workplace. She didn't want to make assumptions. She felt obligated to flag something she overheard at a family event. No mention of her screaming that my ring was fake. No mention of her humiliating me in front of everyone. Just a neat little narrative where she was the responsible employee and Ethan was the questionable leader. I read it twice, jaw tight. Ethan watched me. "You okay?" I let out a short laugh. "Yeah. I love it when people try to ruin my life using proper grammar." He leaned back. "There's more." My stomach sank. "More than HR." Ethan nodded. "She also messaged my work number." "Not directly. She sent it through Teams." I blinked. "She has your Teams." "I'm a senior leader. People can message me." He paused. She wrote, "Hope you're doing okay after yesterday. If you ever need to talk about her, I'm here." I stared at him like I wanted to punch drywall. She really tried the concerned friend angle. Ethan's mouth twitched. "Yeah. Bold choice." "What did you say?" I didn't reply, he said. I screenshotted it and forwarded it to HR with the email. I exhaled slowly, because the Navy had taught me one important thing: always document. Always. But hearing Ethan say it out loud still made me feel like my world had tilted. "She's trying to get you in trouble," I said. "She's trying to get you in trouble," he corrected. "I'm just in the splash zone." I dropped onto the chair across from him. "My mom's going to say I'm overreacting." Ethan's eyes stayed steady. "Your mom is wrong." That shouldn't have felt so good to hear. It did. I rubbed my forehead. "Okay, what happens now?" Ethan tapped the screen. "HR will do what HR does. They'll review it. They'll ask questions. They'll look at whether there's an actual conflict." "And is there?" Ethan didn't even blink. "No. You don't work for my company. You're not in my reporting line. We met outside of work. We didn't connect through her. There's nothing." I nodded, but my chest was still tight. "She's going to twist it anyway." "She can try," Ethan said. "But she chose the one battlefield where feelings don't matter." I stared at him. Policies. He nodded. Policies. For a second, it was almost funny. Tessa had spent her whole life winning by controlling the story, by crying at the right time, by making Mom anxious enough to force me into apologizing. But HR doesn't care who cries prettiest. HR cares who left a paper trail. And Tessa had just left one. My phone buzzed. Mom again. I didn't answer. Ethan glanced at my screen. You want to talk to her? No, I said. If I call her, she'll turn it into Kira's attacking Tessa because she's jealous. Ethan nodded once like he'd been briefed. Okay. I pulled out my phone and opened the folder labeled Family. Screenshots lined up like evidence. Texts. Missed calls. The concerned messages from random relatives. I added a new note, HR email date, time. Teams message date, time. Ethan watched me then said, You don't have to manage this alone. I looked up. I'm not trying to. I'm trying not to let it eat my career. Ethan's expression softened. It won't. That night, I did what every rational adult does when their sister sends an HR complaint. I took a shower, ate leftover takeout, and then rage cleaned my apartment like I was scrubbing for a Navy inspection. By the time I finished, my countertops could have reflected sunlight into space. Ethan stayed sitting on the couch, letting me burn off the adrenaline. When I finally sat down, my phone buzzed again. Unknown number. This time I answered because I was tired of being hunted by strangers. Hello? A woman's voice. Cheerful. Too cheerful. Hi, is this Kira Lawson? Yes. This is Dana from... She paused from the office. I'm calling because we received a message about a situation that may be affecting workplace dynamics. I froze. What office? There was a tiny silence. Oh, sorry. I mean Ethan's office. I'm from HR. My stomach dropped and then immediately climbed back up into my throat. Ethan sat up straight. His eyes locked on mine, question sharp. Put it on speaker. I nodded and hit speaker. Dana continued. I want to reassure you, you're not in trouble. We just had a concern raised. We're conducting a routine review. Ethan leaned in, voice calm. Dana, this is Ethan. I'm here. Hi, Ethan, Dana said. Thank you. So, to be clear, this review is focused on the content of the complaint. Kira, you're not an employee, so this is just informational. I swallowed. Okay. Dana asked a few basic questions: how we met, whether we knew each other through the company, whether Ethan had any involvement with Tessa's role at work. Ethan answered steadily. I answered plainly. No drama, no extra detail. Then Dana said, Thank you. That helps. Also, I want to note, we have a record of additional outreach from the complainant. We're reviewing that as well. Ethan's jaw tightened. Understood. Dana kept her tone neutral, but I could hear it, the polite warning behind her words. Tessa had overplayed her hand. When the call ended, I sat there for a moment, staring at my phone like it had personally betrayed me. She really did it, I said softly. Ethan exhaled. Yeah. I looked at him. Do you think she'll stop? Ethan's answer was immediate. No. Of course not. Tessa didn't stop when she won. She stopped when she got bored, or someone stronger shut the door. I rubbed my hands together, then forced my voice into something practical. Okay, so what do we do? Ethan pointed at my phone. We keep it clean. We don't respond emotionally. We document. I nodded. I can do that. Ethan leaned forward. And Kira. Yeah. He held my gaze. She's trying to make you feel like you're the problem. Don't take that bait. I felt a sharp sting behind my eyes, more anger than sadness, and I blinked it away. I won't, I said. My phone buzzed again, immediately, after like the universe was testing me. It was Mom, of course. A text, not a call this time. Mom, your sister is devastated. You need to fix this before you ruin her life. I stared at the words until my hands stopped shaking. Then I typed one sentence, deleted it, typed another, deleted that too. Finally, I set the phone down without replying and looked at Ethan. I'm not fixing anything, I said. I didn't break it. Ethan nodded slowly, like he'd been waiting for me to say it out loud. And in that moment, with HR officially involved, and my own mother already picking Tessa's side, I understood exactly what was coming next. Not a conversation. An ultimatum. I stared at Mom's text until the words stopped looking like English and started looking like a threat. Ethan was in my kitchen pouring water like we were having a normal Tuesday, not a my sister filed an HR complaint Tuesday. He glanced over at me. Want me to read it, he asked. I slid my phone across the counter. He read it, then let out a slow breath through his nose. She's choosing sides, he said. She always chooses sides, I answered. It's just never mine. My phone buzzed again, before Ethan even handed it back. This time, it was a video call request from my mom. Decline. Another request. Decline. Then a text from Dad. Dad, answer your mother. I laughed once sharp. Not because it was funny, because it was predictable. Dad never says, "How are you?" He says, "Do what your mother wants so I can keep watching TV." Ethan leaned against the counter. You don't have to take it. I know, I said. But if I don't, she'll call Janelle my aunt the neighbor's dog. I'd rather take it once and end it. Ethan nodded. Okay, I'll stay right here. I hit accept. My mom's face filled the screen immediately. She was sitting at her kitchen table, the one I'd done homework at, while Tessa borrowed my pencils and never gave them back. Mom had her serious expression, on which meant this wasn't a call. This was a hearing. Tessa was right next to her, of course. Hair perfect. Eyes a little glossy, like she'd practiced in the mirror. My dad was somewhere off camera, probably pretending he was too busy to pick a lane. Mom didn't even say hello. Kira, she started, voice tight. What are you doing? I kept my tone flat. Hi, Mom. Don't do that, she snapped. Don't play polite when you know you're hurting your sister. I blinked slowly. I'm hurting her. Tessa let out a small sniffle, just audible enough to be heard. Oscar-worthy. Truly, Mom continued. She is devastated. She can't sleep. She's been crying all day. I leaned back on my couch and stared at the screen. Is she crying because she called my ring fake in front of everyone? Or crying because it didn't work? Tessa's eyes flashed. Oh my God, she said, like I'd said something insane. I was kidding. You weren't, I said. You said no one would marry me. Tessa shook her head dramatically. You always twist everything. I almost smiled. Not because I was amused, because it was her signature move. She stabs you, then complains you bled on her shoes. Mom jumped in fast. Kira, you are making this bigger than it is. I kept my voice even. She emailed HR about Ethan. Mom's face went blank for half a second. She hadn't expected me to know that detail so clearly. Tessa lifted her chin. I didn't email HR. I raised a concern. As an employee, like a responsible adult. Ethan, still in the kitchen, made a sound that was half cough, half laugh. He quickly covered it with a sip of water. I ignored him and stayed focused. You raised a concern because you're jealous. Tessa scoffed. Jealous of what you acting like? You won the lottery because some guy proposed. Mom's tone sharpened. Kira, stop attacking your sister. There it was. Stop attacking. Translation, stop defending yourself. I sat forward. Mom, she humiliated me in front of the family. She tried to cause problems for Ethan at work. And now you're asking me to apologize. Mom's voice turned syrupy the way it did when she wanted compliance. Honey, we just want peace. This is tearing the family apart. No, I said. It's exposing the family. Big difference. Tessa rolled her eyes. Here we go. Navy lecture. I didn't rise to it. Tell me what you want. Mom nodded like she'd been waiting for that exact sentence. We want you to call your sister. Apologize for overreacting and tell Ethan to let the HR thing go. I stared at her. You want me to apologize? And you want Ethan to ignore an HR complaint filed about him? It was just a concern, Tessa said quickly. It's not like I accused him of anything. Ethan from the kitchen said quietly. Except you did. I lifted my phone slightly. He's here. Tessa's face twitched. Mom's eyes widened like I'd brought a weapon to the conversation. Ethan stepped into frame, just enough to be visible. He didn't loom. He didn't posture. He just appeared calm and unmistakably present. Hi, Ethan, said politely. Mom's voice went tight. Ethan, we're discussing family matters. Ethan nodded. Understood. I'm only here because my workplace is now involved. Tessa's cheeks flushed. It's not like that. Ethan looked straight at her, and his voice stayed professional. Tessa, you contacted me through Teams after the party and suggested you could talk about Kira. Then you sent an HR complaint that is exactly like that. For a second, Tessa couldn't speak. Her mouth opened, then closed. Mom jumped in panicked. Ethan, please. We don't want things to get messy. Ethan didn't raise his voice. Then the simplest solution is for Tessa to stop using my workplace as a tool in a family argument. Tessa's eyes went watery again, right on cue. I just didn't want you to get hurt, she said, voice shaking. Kira, she's not who you think she is. I laughed. I actually laughed. Tessa, you don't even know who I am. You know the version of me you've been selling to people since we were kids. Mom slammed her palm lightly on the table. Enough. Kira, you're being cruel. Cruel. Not the person who insulted me. Not the person who tried to sabotage my fiancé at work. Me. I felt something go calm in my chest, the way the ocean goes calm right before the weather changes. Okay, I said slowly. Here's what's going to happen. Mom blinked. Tessa tilted her head like she was waiting for me to beg. I'm not apologizing, I said. I didn't do anything wrong. And I'm not asking Ethan to let it go when your daughter created a workplace issue. That's not how adult life works. Mom's face hardened. So you're choosing a man over your family. I didn't flinch. No. I'm choosing respect over manipulation. Tessa scoffed. Oh my God, you're so dramatic. I ignored her. If you want to have a relationship with me, it's going to be different now. Mom leaned forward. Different how? I took a breath, not a long emotional one. A controlled one, like before a hard conversation with a chief. No more group texts, I said. No more sending relatives to interrogate me. No more letting Tessa insult me and calling it a joke. And you don't get to demand apologies when she starts it. Mom's mouth opened, and I could tell she was about to unload a decade of guilt in one sentence. So I added the part she'd understand. And if anyone messes with my life, my credit, my job, my paperwork, anything like that, I will handle it officially. Not with a family meeting. Officially. Tessa's eyes narrowed. Are you threatening us? I kept my voice level. I'm stating boundaries. Mom laughed once bitter. Boundaries. You've been on the internet too much. Ethan stayed quiet, but I felt his steady presence behind me, like a hand on my shoulder. Tessa leaned toward the camera, voice suddenly sweet. Kira, just say you're sorry for embarrassing me. That's all. Just apologize and we can move on. There it was, the real ask. Not peace, not family unity, her image. I looked at her and said the simplest truth I'd ever said to her in my life. No. The silence that followed wasn't cinematic. It was messy. My mom inhaled sharply. Tessa's face tightened. Somewhere off camera, my dad probably sighed like he was the victim here. Mom's voice went cold. Then don't call us when you need something. I almost smiled. I don't. Mom's eyes flashed. Kira, I ended the call. Not with a slam, not with a speech. I just hit the button and let the screen go dark. My living room felt too quiet for a second. Ethan exhaled slowly. You did good. I shook my head. It's going to get worse. Ethan's eyes stayed on mine. Then we stay clean. We stay calm. My phone buzzed immediately, like the universe had a sense of humor. A new text from Mom popped up. Mom. If you don't fix this, you're not welcome here. I stared at it, then set the phone face down on the coffee table. Because for the first time, the fear that used to come with that sentence wasn't there. What was there instead was a clear, focused anger, and a weird kind of relief because now everything was out in the open, and I didn't have to pretend anymore. I set my phone face down and didn't touch it again, which lasted exactly 12 minutes. That's how long it took for my lender's email to land. I was sitting at my kitchen table with my laptop open, a legal pad next to it, pretending I was reviewing work notes. In reality, I was doing the thing you do when your family detonates. You start checking the parts of your life you can actually control. The subject line said, Action Needed Pre-Approval Review. My stomach dropped before I even opened it. I'd been planning this for months. Quietly, no announcements, no family updates, just me, a VA loan, and the idea of owning something that didn't come with emotional strings attached. I clicked. The email was polite, neutral. The kind of tone that says, we're not mad, but we're not moving forward either. An item has appeared on your credit report that requires clarification before we can proceed. I felt the heat climb up my neck. No, I said out loud to no one. Ethan looked up from the couch. What? I turned the laptop toward him. My credit. He read it fast. That doesn't make sense. You're meticulous. I know. I logged into my credit monitoring account, finger steady, because panic doesn't fix numbers. The dashboard loaded. Green, green, green. Then a red alert, a small account. Retail type, low limit. Opened months ago. My address on file, my parents' house. I stared at the screen until my eyes burned. That's not mine. Ethan leaned closer. Are you sure? I'm sure, I said. I don't shop there. I didn't open this. The balance wasn't huge. A few $100s. But the payment history wasn't clean. A missed payment. Maybe two. Just enough to raise a flag. I scrolled. The account holder name was mine. Social Security masked, but unmistakably mine. I felt something cold settle in my chest. Not shock, not even anger yet. Recognition. They used my old address, I said. Ethan frowned. Who did I didn't answer right away. I didn't need to. My mail had gone to my parents' house for years. Training, deployments, temporary housing. It was easier than updating it every time I moved. I'd trusted them to tell me if anything important showed up. Trusted. I pulled up the account details. Opened online. Verification done with basic info. The kind of thing you could do if you knew someone well enough. Ethan watched me connect the dots. You think it was your sister? I think it was someone in that house, I said. And I think they didn't think it was a big deal. Ethan's jaw tightened. That's identity misuse. I nodded. They'll call it borrowing, or helping, or an accident. I closed the laptop slowly. The room felt too quiet. Okay, I said, voice flat. We don't panic. Ethan nodded. We get facts. I reopened the laptop and started pulling reports. TransUnion, Experian, Equifax. Same account, same address. I checked my email history. Nothing from the retailer. Nothing from the credit bureau. No alerts. Mail, I said. They got the mail. Ethan exhaled. That explains the missed payment. I stared at the screen. This didn't just happen. This has been sitting there. And now you're trying to buy a house? He said. So it surfaces. I leaned back in my chair. Timing. Ethan looked at me carefully. Do you want to call them? No, I said immediately. He raised an eyebrow. Why not? Because if I call, they'll lie, I said. And if they lie, I'll start yelling. And then they'll say I'm unstable. Ethan nodded. Okay, what's the plan? I grabbed the legal pad and wrote 3 words at the top. Document. Freeze. Dispute. I freeze my credit, I said. I dispute the account. I let the system do what it does. Ethan watched me work like he was watching a drill he trusted. And your family? I paused. They don't get a heads up. I went to the credit bureau site and initiated a freeze. It took 5 minutes. A few security questions. A PIN. When the confirmation page loaded, I felt a small sense of control come back. Next, I opened the dispute process, selected the account, marked it as not mine. There was a box asking for additional details. I typed carefully. No accusations, no emotional language, just facts. This account was opened without my authorization. Correspondence appears to have been sent to an address I no longer reside at. Submit. I sat back and let out a breath. Ethan reached over and squeezed my hand. You handled that clean. I've had practice, I said. Not with credit, with damage control. My phone buzzed on the table. I didn't look at it. Ethan glanced. You don't have to, I know. But I did anyway. A text from Mom. Mom, we found some mail of yours. You should come pick it up. I stared at the message, pulse steady now. Found, not forwarded, not forgot to mention. Found. I showed Ethan. He didn't say anything, which somehow said everything. I'm not going over there tonight, I said. Good, he replied. I typed back 1 sentence. Me. Please leave my mail unopened. I'll arrange pickup. 3 dots appeared, then disappeared. Then another text, Mom. This is getting ridiculous. I didn't respond. Ethan leaned back. You want me to drive with you when you go? Not yet, I said. I want to see what else is there. The next morning, I called my lender. I explained calmly. No family drama, no backstory, just the facts. There's an account that doesn't belong to me. I've frozen my credit and disputed it. I can provide documentation. The loan officer listened. That happens more than you think, she said, especially with military addresses. I felt a flash of relief. So this doesn't kill the application. No, she said. It pauses it. We'll need the dispute resolution or proof of removal. Pause. Not kill. I could work with pause. After the call, I checked my email again. 2 new messages, one from the retailer acknowledging the dispute, one from my mom. Mom. Your sister is upset you're accusing her of something she didn't do. I laughed. Not loud, just a breath through my nose. Accusing. I hadn't accused anyone. I'd filed paperwork. That's what scared them. Ethan watched me. They're feeling the pressure. Good, I said. Pressure reveals habits. I scrolled through my old emails, searching the retailer's name. Nothing. Then I checked my parents' address in my file history. Still listed in a few places. Not anymore. I updated everything. Bank, credit cards, utilities, anything that could be rerouted. By noon, my phone buzzed again. This time it was Janelle. Janelle, I heard about the credit thing. Me. From who, Janelle? Your mom. She says you're accusing them of fraud. I typed back carefully. Me. I'm fixing an issue, that's all. Janelle. She's panicking. I smiled without humor. Good, I muttered. That afternoon, I sat in my car after work and stared at the base gate as cars streamed through, each one driven by someone with their own mess. I didn't feel embarrassed. I didn't feel ashamed. I felt alert. Because between the HR complaint and the credit issue, a pattern was forming. Not coincidence. Not bad luck. Control. Tessa controlled stories. My mom controlled access. And now they were finding out what happened when those tools didn't work on me anymore. My phone buzzed again as I pulled into my apartment complex. A notification from my credit monitoring app. New document available. I parked, shut off the engine, and opened it. It wasn't a resolution. Not yet. It was a copy of the original account application, and under authorized contact, there was a phone number I knew by heart. My thumb hovered over the screen, and for a second I just stared at that phone number like it might blink and apologize. It didn't. It sat there under authorized contact like the world's most casual betrayal. Tessa's number. Not my mom's. Not my dad's. Tessa's. I took a screenshot, saved the PDF, and emailed it to myself because when you grow up in my family, you learn that evidence has to survive more than one device. Then I sat in my parked car, hands on the wheel, breathing through my nose like I was trying not to commit a felony in a Kroger parking lot. When I finally walked inside, Ethan looked up immediately. You look like you just found a body. Close, I said, and dropped my phone on the counter. He picked it up, read, and his expression changed. Not shocked, focused. That's her, he said quietly. Yeah, I answered. That's her. Ethan set the phone down like it was radioactive. Okay, now we know. Now we know. Like knowledge alone didn't make me want to scream. My phone buzzed again, because apparently my family had signed a contract with the universe to never let me breathe. Group text. New thread. Again. Mom, we need to meet in person. Dad. This is out of hand. Aunt Linda. Why are you doing this to your mother, Tessa? She's trying to ruin me. Classic Kira. I read that last line twice. Classic Kira. As if I'd built a career out of ruining people. As if I wasn't literally just trying to buy a house and exist. Ethan watched me, eyes steady. Don't respond. I'm not, I said and meant it. But I couldn't ignore what was happening. They weren't just reacting anymore. They were organizing. They were trying to build a crowd. That night, the calls started. Not from family. From people I barely knew. My mom's church friend left a voicemail. Sweetie, your mom is heartbroken. Family is all you have. My dad's cousin texted, you should respect your elders. Someone I went to high school with messaged me on Facebook, "Heard you're being harsh. Hope you're okay." That one almost made me laugh because it was so obvious. The "I'm concerned" script, the same tone Tessa used in that HR email, like she'd franchised her personality. I didn't reply to any of it. I just saved it. Because what Tessa didn't understand, what my mom never understood, was that I wasn't trying to win an argument. I was protecting my life. And then around 9:30 p.m., I got a message that made my stomach drop. It wasn't from family. It was from an email address I didn't recognize. Subject line: question regarding your relationship. Ethan looked up as my face changed. "What is it?" I opened it. One sentence. "I hope you know your fiancé is involved with an employee." I stared at the screen, heat rising in my neck. Ethan leaned in. "That's HR language." "Yeah," I said. "That's someone trying to make it sound official." Ethan's jaw tightened. "Forward it to me." I did. Then I checked the sender details. Generic free email. No signature. No name. Tessa was getting bolder. "She's trying to bait you," I said. Ethan nodded. "And she's trying to bait HR." He pulled out his phone and typed fast and controlled. "I'm sending this to Dana." I watched him work calm and professional, and I felt a weird mix of gratitude and fury. Gratitude that he wasn't gratitude that he wasn't gratitude that he wasn't gratitude that he wasn't gratitude